Welcome to the Judgment Free Zone. You've downloaded the Alcohol Free Marriage Podcast, episode 33 for December 19th, 2022.
Now adjust the volume control so that the sound can be heard in all parts of the room.
Recorded live from the cornfields of Central Illinois, you're listening to the Alcohol Free Marriage Podcast with Matt and Amy. Come and learn and share a journey with two former craft beer enthusiasts who went from daily drinkers to teetotalers and basically never lost their love for their life together.
Hey, a freak show!
Well, hello there, children. Welcome back to your weekly freak show that is the Alcohol Free Marriage Podcast. My name is Matt, along with the always lovely and ho-ho-hoing it over there, Coach Amy. That
Ho-ho-hoing it.
You know, ho-ho-ho only really works with Santa Claus. You notice that? You really,
Ho-ho-hoing it.
If you ho-ho-hoing it any other way, it just doesn't work. It just does not work.
Yeah.
How are you, Coach Amy?
I'm amazing.
You're amazing. You're down here in your studio with your gigantic fireplace, which we had to mute because we didn't want all extra noises. I think it's a little extreme when it's on a 65-inch TV, but, you know.
Well, when it's playing the Christmas music, like the little instrumental guitar.
I know, you have it going upstairs, too, and I was up there, I'm like, what the hell is that noise?
I've got my little Christmas tree. I've got my things lit. I've got my, what do I have behind you, Matt?
Oh, yes, I almost missed the obvious. You can't really see it very well, but there's 1,000 days somebody's not been drinking. Who would that be, Coach Amy?
Woohoo!
And it's funny, I've noticed when we talk to people about how long we haven't drank, you're at 1,000 days, I'm at 2 years, and like, oh, like they think, people don't do the math fast enough to think, oh, 1,000 days, oh, well, that must be 2 years. You know, they're not the same thing, people. Just FYI.
No, I'm almost at
almost
3 next March. But no, so excited. 1,000 days.
You got your balloons.
Never thought. Thank you for getting the balloons, because you know me. I probably would have been like, okay, I'll look at them. I'm not going to do it.
But we did.
But thank you.
It was worth for 1,000 days. Come on now.
I'm very excited, especially when you think about, like, I've got a blog post that's going to be out, hopefully, probably by the time this is, maybe by tomorrow. It's written. It just needs to be put up. And
how many days were you going to quit drinking for when you started this?
I was not going to quit drinking. Let me repeat that to people. I was not going to quit drinking. So I just want to let you all know that I took a break thinking that the break would be, I'm going to take this break.
I'm going to moderate.
And then at the end, I'm going to be able to control my drinking and moderate my alcohol intake. But what I discovered, and I have a hair here, sorry. What I discovered is that once I took that break and I felt so good, I'm like, oh.
Why would I want to go back?
I don't know if I want to do this again. And then through all of the last 1,000 days and all the learning and everything that I have just kind of uncovered with myself personally, you know, I really like me again. And I didn't like me when I was drinking.
And darn it, people like
And
you.
not because I was drinking. I was drinking because I didn't like me. And I didn't.
You've done a lot of work on yourself in 1,000 days.
I have. And so I'm just so excited because
it's awesome.
I never, ever, I always tell people this, I never, ever have to have a hangover again.
You don't. That's all up to you. You can. You're more than welcome to.
Yeah, I can, but I get the choice that I never, ever have to play Russian roulette with my drinking and have a hangover.
Have a hangover.
So I'm thrilled. I'm excited. I'm loving it. I'm loving what I'm doing. I'm enjoying helping women, take a break, discover themselves. That's been wonderful. Once you take away that one thing, at least it has been for me and a lot of other people, that once that goes away, it's like, oh my gosh, I can do so much more, and I have
a lot of free time. I'm not just sitting around drinking all night.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So it is exciting. So I'm thrilled with it. I'm thrilled that we're doing this. That was one of the things that I wanted to do when I think before you quit drinking, I was like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if he quit drinking? And then
he could do a podcast.
And then we could do this podcast that I've kind of got an idea about, but no, I'm not going to say anything.
Could you quit drinking so we could do a podcast?
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
That's not the right motivation.
No. Could you just, come on. I need a producer.
Right? Yeah, I need a producer, so I really need you to quit drinking so you can be on the show. That'd be great. Yeah.
I mean, you're great at tech support. Come on.
Yeah, right? Well, and dry January is coming up.
I know, it's
right?
a dry
So if you want to
January.
join, if you want to maybe someday hit 1,000 days like Coach Amy,
Or you know what? Let's
just hit a day.
Let's just take that off. Let's
true.
just take that off because I never intended. I didn't think I would be able to get to 10 days.
That sounds like forever when you're starting at day one.
Yes, and I mean, I was just excited about maybe getting to 100 days.
I was happy when I just didn't drink for like 4 days straight. I thought that was just amazing.
I know. And so then, and I kept looking to other people, and I would see people post and be like 1,000 days or whatever. And I'm like, wow.
So what are you doing in January to help
So in
others?
January,
Well, hold on. Before you say anything, if you want to learn more about this, you can go to, is it alcoholfreespirit.com or
It's-
the alcoholfreespirit.com?
thealcoholfreespirit.com.
I bought the domain. I didn't pay attention. It's the thes.
It's okay.
I should have bought the
thes.
non-the
I
version.
know. When you do the, I think we had, I don't know.
Anyway, thealcoholfreespirit.com
So,
will have
yes,
you this.
the Alcohol Free Spirit Experiment. It's a group coaching program. It's a 6-week program that Suzanne Nissen and I have put together, and we are going to be taking you all through a 6-week program where we're going to start off in a pause. And you can, like I said, you can get all the information. Like, what's a pause? Well, we're going to tell you that if you aren't ready to quit drinking, don't, which is so counterintuitive to everything you have ever heard.
Learn some stuff first, kids.
So you're going to start off with week 1. We're going to talk, we're going to do some things with that. I'm not going to go into all the details. We're going to take a deep dive in weeks 2, 3, 4, and 5. And that's where we're really going to start to really dig into all the reasons and the science by, why we drink. We're going to look at all those beliefs, and we're going to basically kind of take them apart. And then at the end, we're going to give you the next steps, whatever you decide. If you decide you would like to do moderation, which there are people who can moderate, but that's strictly up to you. You have to put in rules and guardrails and all kinds of things like that. But again, there is no pressure. There's no judgment with this. And then finally, what we feel we are distinguishing ourselves with is we are really adding in that component of talking about our faith and alcohol and how it works and how it doesn't work. And so it's going to start on January 8th. If you sign up by January 1st, there is an incentive. We are doing a giveaway, plus we are offering $100 off the price.
And it's a real discount code because I set the code up. So I know it's...
So we are really excited about this.
And it expires at the end of the year, kids. So
if you want to join us, and here's the other thing. I've already had this question. Oh, is this just for Christians? No. You know what? I've always been a person that the information, no matter what, is so good. But the supportive community, a small group of women going through this together, if you are not a believer, that's okay. Come in, take what works for you, and you just might be surprised.
Well, a lot of the alcohol training, we'll call it, is religion agnostic.
I would say, yeah. Because, this is... What we're going to dig into is the science, but it's that component of where we're going to really dig into, each week and have a separate talk about our faith. And so there's a lot involved in this. All the details, again, are at thealcoholfreespirit.com. I'm sorry.
We'll put a link in the show notes. That'll make it way easier for everybody.
Well, here's the thing. You know what? There's also the alcohol experiment, and which...
We don't have experiment in the URL. Anyway, links down below, kids.
Yes. So thank you. And if you do have questions, just feel free to reach out. A couple other things. I have 2 guides out there. I just wanted to mention we have the holiday tip guide, and you can contact us. And then there's also our 5 o'clock free somewhere.
No, 5 o'clock summer alcohol free edition.
Oh my gosh.
We need to work on our names. We can't remember any of our names. And
no, what it is I need to just have some notes up.
That's true. Our show notes are really not notes at all.
There's no notes today. No. Let's just put it that way.
Amy, let's keep moving along so we can get to our awesome interview with a book that's yet to be released, which is super secret cool stuff. All right, so your drink of the week there, Coach Amy. You made it up yourself, so I named it the Amy's Christmas Spritz. which contains what is it? Flavor is this? Oh, cran raspberry spindrift, which is like a LaCroix type drink. We found that at Sam's Club if you're looking. And Fever Tree Premium Ginger Beer, which I think we also found ironically at Sam's Club.
And I would say a half a squeeze of lime. I did not have a fresh lime today, so I put some lime juice in it.
Yep. And you said you could use diet ginger beer, make it a little...
Yep. Because this ginger beer, I guess I wish I would have read
paid attention to what we were buying.
The calories. I mean, it's good because it has the sugar.
You're all excited. It's a deal, so you got it.
But I mean, even when you have that, you're only using. I mean, I don't even know. Don't think I even used a half a bottle.
No, not even close.
So I think the whole bottle has 110 calories. So maybe you're pouring in about 40 to 50 calories.
But there's none in the spindrift, so you got that going for you.
It's true. And what I did was I took cranberries. I rolled them in that Truvia monk fruit sugar or whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
And rolled that in there. And you can do a little a lime around there and then dip it in there, make it really festive. But for today,
you didn't.
I didn't.
You didn't. So yeah, the Amy Spritz is, or Amy Christmas Spritz is way more production involved than mine, which was opened from a can.
It's really not that much.
No, it's not that much. You opened 2 cans. I opened 1. Brew Dog actually made gin and tonic. They call it their Lone Wolf G&T. So
how is it?
It's actually really good. I like, when it's good in a can because it's more portable if you're going to a Christmas party or out to dinner or on the boat or wherever the season happens to be. I didn't even put a lime in it, but it's very good. I enjoy it.
We're out of limes.
Well, we're out of lime. That's why I didn't put one in it, I guess. But anyway, that's another one from Brew Dog, which is them branching out beyond their NA beers that they have. So, Coach Amy.
Yes.
All right, there's our drink of the week as we ran through that.
I know.
Trying to get to the interview. We're yapping on.
No.
All right, so tell me about this interview and this awesome book.
Okay. Well, the book is called Intoxicating Lies: One Woman's Journey to Freedom from Gray Area Drinking. The author who we are interviewing is Meg Geisewite. And Meg, let me just tell you a little bit about her. She is an ordinary mom who found herself trapped in the mommy wine culture. She began her sober curious journey in November of 2019, where her love of science led her to discover the real truth about alcohol and its seductive lies. As a truth teller, Meg is changing the narrative on the mommy wine culture, the hustle culture, and our pro-drinking culture. In Meg's debut book, Intoxicating Lies, she flips the script on the 5 most intoxicating lies that we tell ourselves about alcohol. And Meg resides in Delaware with her husband and 2 teenage children. Her family has been her rock through her alcohol-free journey. And you can find Meg enjoying nature on beautiful biking trails in Delaware. And so we'll go to that interview right now.
Right now.
We are so excited to welcome Meg Geisewite here today. She is the author of Intoxicating Lies: One Woman's Journey to Freedom from Gray Area Drinking. And Meg talks in her book about the 5 most intoxicating lies that we tell ourselves about alcohol. And we are so excited that you are here with us today. And I just wanted to, first off, thank you because you are a sister, a sober sister. And I love those connections that we can find with others who are on this AF journey. And I just welcome so much to the Alcohol Free Marriage podcast.
Well, thank you so much, Amy and Matt, for having me. It's an honor to be here, and I love to spend time with a fellow sober sister. So I'm excited to have this conversation today with both of you.
Oh, great. And we're just going to start at the beginning like we always do. We always try to ask everybody, just tell us a little bit about you, where you're from, your family, and, what you like to do for fun.
Sure. Thanks. I live in Newark, Delaware. And I've been married for almost 20 years to my husband, Paul. We'll be celebrating 20 years next year. And I have two kids. I have a 13-year-old son and a almost 16-year-old daughter. And for fun, I love to bike ride. So you can usually find me on any of the biking trails in Delaware. It's one of my favorite places to be, or hiking in the woods during the pandemic. I really fell in love a lot with our state parks. And the other thing I love to do, which was something that I loved to do as a child, which is watercolors. I've recently been taking some watercolors classes, and it's like the to-do list just evaporates and I get immersed into the watercolors and the painting, and just pure joy comes alive inside of me. So those are the things that I enjoy most.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I think really, I don't want to jump in already like this, but in the book you talked about, going back to those things. So we'll touch a little bit on that going forward, but
yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about your addiction story?
Sure. Thanks for asking. So it started for me in the 8th grade. And I talk about this in the book, where as a child, we moved quite a bit. And I always found myself in new schools, making new friends, always feeling a little socially awkward. And my parents ran in that country club scene where they were either off to a cocktail party, or we were having one at our house. And so that message of this is how you let off steam, this is how you connect with others, was happening for me at a very young age. And I remember having some girls over to sleep in the 8th grade for a sleepover, and they said, let's raid your parents' liquor cabinet. And of course, I wanted to be cool. I wanted to be popular. So we did some shots of peach schnapps. And that was my very first hangover. Was horrible. And I thought, God, how can anybody drink this stuff? And of course, I then went on into high school and did the occasional drinking at parties when I could sneak off and do so. But I had my freshman year, which I talk about in the book, a very rude awakening to some of the dangers of alcohol, which was my freshman year. I lost my best friend, Carla, in a drinking and driving accident that I should have been in the car that night. And it was such a wake-up call to me that I made a vow to never drink and drive again, which is a promise that I have kept to this day. But really, the only dangers that I was ever told about, or warnings about alcohol, was do not drink and drive, which I completely believed in, and don't drink if you're pregnant. Everything else was telling me that it was fine, it was a social lubricant. Everybody else was doing it. And so I went right into college with those thoughts and those behaviors. And I found myself one night in my freshman year at a party, and a young man had asked me, we were talking in the basement, it was very loud and noisy, and he had asked me to go outside to talk to him because I had been drinking the keg beer and had a pretty good buzz going on. I didn't even think much of it. And unfortunately, I was sexually assaulted that evening. And that incident really... It was a moment in my life where I had lost complete control of my body, and a fear was instilled in me that I had never had before. And you would think that I would have really thought about my alcohol intake. And of course, what I did was I mostly blamed myself. I felt like I needed to be in control of everything thereafter. And I found myself even after college in another situation where I put myself right back into drinking too much. And unfortunately, I was date raped. And again, just feeling this feeling of unworthiness. And feeling like I was out of control. And so from then on, I really felt like I needed to take control. I needed to be in control. And so I landed in sales, and I found that I was very successful at it, and I could control my sales, and I could control winning awards and looking like I had it all. And I really fell into that hustle culture. And I felt like I was my worth, because my worth was so low, that when I would prove myself and what I accomplished, then I was good enough. And I really had this belief. And I never really looked at the alcohol as part of the problem. I just kept going along with the pro drinking normative culture. And that rat race of trying to keep up with the Joneses and look like I had it all and do it all, I fell into aesthetic sales, and then the beauty culture of, looking a certain way and making it look like it was perfect. I fell into all that. Then I got married and I had 2 kids, and I fell into the mommy wine culture. So the mommy wine culture told me that if behind every great mom was a bottle of wine. And if my kids whined, I should have wine. And it was the solution to all of the things that I was trying to do in my life, where I was trying to keep up with being in control and looking like I had it all and looking perfect while I did it. At the end of the day, I was exhausted. I mean, just completely exhausted. And when I would come home, it was the rewarding glass of wine that escaped all the chatter that was going on in my brain, telling me to do more. And it was the escape that I so desperately needed. And unfortunately, we just don't have an earth school that tells us of a healthy way to deal with all this stress and anxiety and past traumas, quite frankly. So what ended up happening was 3 back-to-back life events happened 2 weeks apart from one another. My kids were probably around the ages of 9 and 10. And I didn't really know how else to handle it other than the friend that had been by my side all those times that allowed me to escape. I now my drinking really shifted from a recreational weekend use to a medicinal nightly use, because I did not know how to handle all of these events. So when I started to realize, boy, this is becoming a habit, really, I talked to my therapist about it at the time, and she said, Meg, I think you're thinking about this too much. You're fine. And she kept my gray area drinking going for 2 more years, because I viewed her as the expert. I would do wellness things where I would work out, and at the end of it, they would have mimosas. And so I was literally stuck in this detox to retox loop, where I was trying to convince myself all day that I didn't have a problem by eating healthy, doing a strenuous, punishing workout, feeling better, than being exhausted from taking care of everybody's needs but my own. I mean, I couldn't even tell you what my needs were. I was so wrapped up in taking care of everybody else. And I'm an empath, so I feel everybody's energies. I worry about everybody else. And I had just really lost myself in a glass of wine. And when I no longer wanted my kids to do sports in the evenings, that scared me. I thought, oh my gosh, this is taking complete control over me. This isn't normal. Even though everybody was telling me, you drink just fine. You've never, you've had no external consequences. You're winning awards at work. You've got it all together. You don't have a problem. But I realized it didn't matter what everybody thought, including the experts. It's what I felt. And this inner knowing in me was pleading with me, telling me, you have got to stop. This is not serving you. And so I finally clicked on an ad for Sober Sis. And when I watched the video, I so resonated with Jen Couch's message of the detox to retox cycle, which she coined. And for the first time, I had heard of the subject called gray area drinking. I'd really never hit a rock bottom. I guess you could say my rock bottom is when I didn't want my kids to do sports anymore, so I could come home to my rewarding glass of wine. But there was really no external consequences. So I struggled very silently with this for many years. I didn't tell many people this war that was raging in my head. And I figured when I joined Sober Sis, there would be me and 3 other women in there. And when I got into her group and saw, hundreds of women, thousands of women questioning their relationship with alcohol, just like me, I thought, well, what in the heck is going on? Why are there so many people that feel the way that I do? Why is that? And so after when I joined the 21-day reset with Sober Sis, I did not want to break up with alcohol. I have to be honest. I just felt like I needed to get a few tools in my tool shed to literally reset my drinking behavior. And
you'd be all good. You'd be all fixed at the end of the 21 days. I remember
21 days, like the instant gratification society message.
Good.
Let's do this. So, but and the other thing that had scared me is I really couldn't I couldn't stop drinking more than two weeks at a time. And so why was that? And so anyways, I hadn't had any of these conversations with anybody else, but after Jen's 21-day reset, I had never felt better. And I thought, gosh, there's just something to this. All of my eczema was clearing up. I was sleeping better. I was feeling better. And she, at that time, this was November of 2019, she did not have another course at that time. So I had just finished reading This Naked Mind by Annie Grace, which really dropped the veil on the science behind alcohol. And being in pharmaceutical sales, it was like I was just a sponge taking in her message and information on the truth about alcohol. And so I signed up for Annie Grace's alcohol experiment in the month of December and did that for 30 days. And then Jen came out with her first program, which was called the Alcohol-Free Lifestyle, which was a 90-day program. And at that point I thought, you know what, I'm going to give myself over 100 days with this and just see how it feels. Now, mind you, my husband was like, this isn't forever, right? And I was still
I can attest to something similar. Yes.
Yeah, we're just doing this for a little while, right? And I was like, I'm not sure, because I have never felt better, and I want to give myself a little more time and exploration into all this. I've always loved to journal, so I was journaling through this entire process. And it was really after 100 days of being alcohol-free that something shifted in my brain.
Yes.
I mean, it was like the light bulbs started going off, and I was writing like I had never written before. The fog that was every day I woke up to a slight shade of gray was gone. Life was now in Technicolor. And of course, things were coming up that were hard because there was no longer a substance there to numb it. But I was finally getting the tools in Jen's program on how to deal with those feelings and emotions that were coming up. Even though I felt raw, I felt like I had no skin on me at that time. I was just like this unbecoming and becoming all at the same time and trying to figure it out. But I at least wasn't white knuckling it anymore. I was actually doing the work. We call it the heart work. And so that's really kind of that inner knowing. I just am to this day so grateful that I listened to that small voice inside of me, because alcohol was keeping me small, quiet, and checked out. And I think, the greatest gift it has given me is waking up to that inner knowing and my spirituality.
Yeah. I am so sorry.
I think we can really, well, I personally anyway, can identify or connect with the, I don't want to do things in the evening that are going to get in the way of my drinking, right? Like school activities is a great example, right? It's like, oh man, if we go that, how am I going to work? Can I have a drink before I go? Then I guess I can't even drink when I get home. And how long is this going to be? Because I can't
timing it
there and timing it. And I really like a point out. I guess I never really thought about this of all these different facets of your life at one time that all had their own in to alcohol, right? So like sales and the drinking meetings, right? And the mommy wine culture for the mommy thing. And I guess I've never really thought of that of it's not necessarily just this one thing, right? That's impacting people. It's because I'm a mom, the wine thing, and because I work here and of this and of this, and everywhere you're turning, like that's just how it is. And then Amy's got the, identifies with the, you know, a professional saying, no, you're fine. And
yeah,
you
that
keep going because
whole-
they're the professional.
You made a comment about with your therapist.
Yes.
I went to a therapist the first time when I think I was 47. Alcohol, it never came up.
Yeah.
Never. And I don't blame her, but I was so good at masking everything with even going into therapy. You have that. You still have a mask up. You still
the facade is still going on.
You're still sitting there. You're talking. Now, I will say we worked through a lot, but I always had that little, should I ask her about this or should I not? And what's funny is you did, and it was still stuck.
Yes.
And I find that that is so fascinating to me, that it is so the culture, even with medical professionals, therapists, everybody, we're all receiving those messages. And I will say that big alcohol has the most aggressive and the best marketing departments in the world, because everything has to have alcohol. And so you have a therapist who is just like you and I, except her job is to help people with therapy. And she's probably also having her glass of wine. And I don't know that, but.
And Meg's not the first person to tell us the same scenario. I had the same thing. I asked my physician about it. Don't beat yourself up over a couple beers a night. You're fine.
Yep. I just recently was interviewed by a reporter who kept trying to put me in a black and white drinking bucket. And I was trying to explain gray area drinking is a wide spectrum. It's vast. It can be Aunt Jane who has a glass of wine twice a year, maybe doesn't even finish the glass, all the way to somebody who is drinking a couple bottles a night. And then there's 10% of us who are physically and psychologically dependent upon alcohol. And that gray area spectrum, I resonated so much with Jolene Park, who is the leading authority on gray area drinking. And when she explained what it is and what, how we silently struggle, but we're usually CEOs, high producing, award-winning career professionals, lawyers, doctors, we don't want to admit that we are part of this alcohol use disorder spectrum, but we are. And if we don't start talking about it, and that is the sole reason why I wrote the book, I wanted a book that really called out gray area drinking, explained what it was, allowed women in particular who are being, like you said, Amy, targeted by big alcohol with billions of dollars. They know that we are exhausted. They know that we don't have the support that we need. And they're preying on that. And the men as well. But I just have to say that during the pandemic, drinking went up 42% in women, because we're trying to carry the household, trying to homeschool kids, trying to do our jobs. It was, and then told to have a quarantini to deal with it all. Or a mamatini. And it's not a solution when it's adding to our depression, it's adding to our anxiety, it's making our parenting so much more challenging, when what we really need is rest and community and support and connection. But we don't talk about that.
No, you're absolutely right. And that is what is I'm so glad, I am so excited about your book, because that is, like you said in the book, you were so glad that you already had quit drinking, that you had some time under your belt.
Before the
And
pandemic hit,
before the
yes.
pandemic hit, because I went in and that's when I decided, right when we were going into lockdown. And you pointed out, people went one or two ways. They either really ramped up or they really started to examine their lives and examine their relationship
Yep.
with alcohol, and substances that they were using. And I would love it if you would just kind of go into that a little bit more like you did in the book.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the pandemic was so challenging because we were stuck inside all day with our people, and we were no longer allowed to use what society, like the hustle and the distractions with shopping and work and all those things. We were now forced to be inside staring at the very things that we probably ran from for many years. And some of us chose to not look at those things and dive into the bottle further during that time. I know I had a lot of friends that said, it normalized day drinking.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the essential businesses was liquor stores being open right along with getting our mail delivered. And I understand that, there are people that could die if they didn't have their alcohol, and that is why they kept it open. But it fed and fueled the day drinking, quarantini, pandemic addiction when the rates went through the roof during that time, because there really was no other way to escape the very things that we were running from.
Mm-hmm.
And so you really either, like you said, at that time, had an opportunity to look at those things, face those things, deal with those things, or drink. And unfortunately, addiction went through the roof during that time. That was, and we can talk about it if you want now, but that was one of the times in my book that I had what I call an F it moment, because my husband, we were concerned with some of his health issues about COVID. So I had a very strict protocol within the house with the kids, and I was constantly monitoring where they were and who they were with, and to try to keep him safe. As well as we were on two different fences politically. We had both quit drinking, so we were feeling everything. Everything. And then I found my daughter lied to me about vaping, and it was like everything just came to a head. And I still, even though I was 15 months alcohol free at that point, I still had this lurking deprivation mindset with alcohol way in the back. Even though I had the tools and I had been alcohol free, there was this small little like jokester in the back of my head that was like, if things get really bad, we can still use alcohol as a crutch. And it was lurking back there, and I didn't really realize that it was back there, but it was. And so I went downstairs after I had realized all these things with my daughter, and I poured myself a big glass of wine. And I took 3 big sips, and they burned going down. And at that point, I just wanted to check out. I didn't want to fight to keep everybody safe. I didn't want to fight about politics. I didn't want to fight for my sobriety anymore. I just was like, I'm done. And my daughter came down the stairs, and she had tears in her eyes, and she said, "Mommy, is this my fault?" And it was like my why got slapped across my face. It was like, how can I tell her to not vape and do something that's highly addictive? And yet here I am drinking a highly addictive drug to check out, when I know I have done the work that this is not going to solve my problems. They're all going to be there tomorrow when I wake up.
And you're going to have a headache.
And you're going to feel like crap.
Yeah.
And I poured that glass of wine down the drain. And I say all this because there's so many women, or men too, in this journey that beat themselves up if they have what I call a sidestep in this journey. And we're human. If you learn from it, it is not failure. If you get feedback from it and it's a data point, it will move you further in your journey. And I really encourage you to journal if you do have a sidestep. What did it bring you? What did you think it would do? Because, in my mind, I thought it could still be a crutch. And I realized it is not a reward and it is not a crutch. And it made me want to never drink again, because what is it providing for me? Absolutely nothing. What am I modeling to my children? And that it's progress over perfection. I'm not perfect. In my book, all of my stories are not perfect. It's me catching myself and going, oh gosh, wait a second. This isn't perfect. This is actually, I know better. I need to do better. And it's this whole learning process and the letting go of the old us and our old coping skills and behaviors and patterns, and looking with them with self-compassion and not judgment, and saying, I did the best I could at that time with what I went through, how I was raised. And now I can choose differently, and I can choose to show up for myself every day and rescue her and be the person that God wants me to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And prior to when we were talking before we went into the interview, I wanted to talk a little bit about your faith, since you've just touched on that, because I know for me, and my story was, I had decided in 2020 to read the Bible in a year. And so I started doing that in January. And what I found, because I'm still drinking, but what I found
At that point, yes, at that
point in 2020, there was, we didn't know about the pandemic in January. And I'm reading the Bible. I'm every morning, and I'm drinking in the evening and going to church with my hangover, sitting there and, having one foot in one world and one foot in the other. And for me, the conflict was so immense, and it was just ramping up more and more as I proceeded through the year, up until the point where I finally was like, okay, I gotta take a break. I gotta do this, or I gotta get it under control.
Yeah.
And you shared similar, that how your faith has grown now.
Yes.
With letting go of alcohol.
So I was looking outside of myself my whole life, external social validation, work validation, I'm only as good as my numbers. So the mommy wine culture, just thinking that, the solution was more alcohol. Everything was outside of myself, and I didn't even know it. And the disconnect that I had between me and God and my inner knowing was, alcohol was corroding that connection. It was fogging it. I was so disconnected from all of it. Everything was external. And when I removed it, I got still and quiet and started to, and I mentioned in the book, a two-way prayer with God, and just really felt like I started communicating and with him as well as with myself. And I started to slow down and rest and meditate. And every day now I have basically 3 non-negotiables. One is movement outside, usually in nature, where I try to find the beauty in every day to have gratitude. Number 2 is I have an intention journal where I journal every day. And 3 is meditation and prayer, where I really take the time to just sit there and listen to what God wants for my life and what is within me, because the answers are all within me. And instead of looking outside of myself for the validation and answers, I now get still and quiet every day. And it's only a couple minutes. I know we're all busy, but those answers pop right up. He's right there. And it's like, okay. And I feel so held and loved that I never felt that when I was drinking. I was always uncertain and unsure, and again, going outside of myself, looking for that validation. And so with that being gone now, that is the greatest gift, to be able to just know who I am, believe in myself because of whose I am. And it feeds my soul every day. And I'm now looking at life in a different way. Like it's what the magic is all there. It's all around us. If we'll just slow down and see it, it's there. He's created it in nature. I mean, today I went on a walk this morning and there was this huge tree right in my path. And I thought, you know what? Nature's always teaching me. It's like, oh, that used to be like a big obstacle, right? And now I look at that as, how can I get over that tree? How can I continue on my journey? You know, or the woodpecker that was pecking on the tree down the path a little further. Take baby steps. You know, these are things that I never thought about or tuned into when I was drinking. I was too fogged out. I was either working off a slight hangover or working towards my next drink, or how I could get one, because it's starting to take control of me. And now my thoughts are, where's the magic in the day? Where's the beauty in this day? And how can I connect with that spirituality? How can I connect more with me and show up for me every day?
I love it. I'm the connection with you saying that, like my morning is, you have to exercise. There's some kind of movement. I have meditate, pray.
Yeah.
That's part of it. And then, doing a little journaling. And I tell my clients, it's not a lot. Just write down a couple if you can't think of anything, what are you grateful for today?
Yep.
Just something.
One thing.
Want to connect. And I do. That is just so wonderful that you shared that. Again, it's just one of those connections where you're like, oh, this is part of my tribe. One of my sisters, because you said another thing in your book about how you punished yourself with your exercising.
Yes.
That was me. It was like, okay, yep. Well, what you did last night. Okay. You're going to get down there 5 a.m. Boom, boom, boom.
Boom, boom, boom.
Oh.
Not enjoy it, sweat out those toxins. And, I would bike 25, 30 miles. See, I've got this. I'm in control. Alcohol doesn't have any control over me. That's literally what I would say to myself. I've got this. I don't have a problem. Look, I just biked 50 miles. And then, when you hear the craziest you talked about a divided mind, a divided heart. At the end of the trail was a restaurant, and I would go reward myself with a glass of Prosecco. Like, what? That doesn't even make sense. I mean,
and that's the way it is now with again, the greatest marketers in the world. Now we have yoga and wine, and we're doing, everything in the distilleries. And now the big trend is, bourbon sippings, tastings. I mean, it's just this huge
everywhere.
It's just this perpetual cycle of, okay, we got to get the next thing. Oh, let's make this new and magical. Oh, bourbon. Remember that? Well,
speaking of magical, even we just talked on the last podcast, even at Disney, any drink you want, you can make magical. They'll put booze in your coffee. They'll put booze in your basically like a kid drink, but they'll put booze in that. Like, you can get booze in anything you want.
Right. You get a booze in like a sippy cup at Disney. And guess what? It actually makes that magic disappear. It makes you angry. It decreases your patience. It increases your depression, increases your anxiety. Where's the magic in that? Like,
yeah. And another area that you had touched on too is, why are there no labels?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Why are there no labels? I mean, there's labels on cigarettes.
Yeah.
There's labeling on, for vaping.
Yeah.
Well,
because that's part of it, but there's nothing except for, there's just a very small blurb on, you don't drink if you're pregnant.
Yeah. Or drink responsibly. None of us know what that means. What does that mean? I mean, nobody knows. There's just too much money wrapped up in alcohol. And I was just watching Dope Sick with my husband, which I don't know if you've seen that.
We
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
And you know what the ironic part was? I don't know if you caught this, but I'm watching it. And of course, being in pharmaceuticals, the whole thing makes me sick about the opioid issue and how everybody involved at the highest levels was being paid off. It all comes down to money, but so does it in the big alcohol industry.
Yep.
But then the DEA, who's the main character in the show, is drinking wine throughout the show. And I'm thinking, well, that's just another drug, but we normalize it.
And there's a disconnect.
Yes, there's such a disconnect. Here we are calling out an addictive subject, opioids, which it truly is, but so is alcohol.
Yeah.
And she's on the show drinking it.
And you have the whole, they went into the investigating and everything. And we all know that alcohol is addictive.
Yep.
But again, it's your fault if you get addicted because you didn't drink responsibly.
We're going to put the label on you and call you a alcoholic or whatever people want to call you. Oh, the girl who has the drinking problem.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not going to put the label that it causes 7 types of cancer, no amount of is safe for the heart, or that it shrinks the brain. Like, what, we have labels on food that it can cause certain things, but we don't do that because with great profit is great suffering.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
and
that's a good one.
The big thing is if you're getting a dopamine hit, somebody's making money off of it.
That's right.
So it's like big food when we look at all the sugar and the sweets and everything, because I've been trying to do the alcohol experiment with sugar in November. And that's my next thing, is to really clean up and investigate and look at that. But it's the same thing. And
the same thing.
When we watched Dope Sick, because the two of us did, we were saying the same things. We're like, this is no different.
No different. No different. And they're drinking on that show. It just shows you that it's just subtly put into TV shows, on movies, glamorized.
Yep.
And what's really like what we should be romanticizing is out in nature, spending quality time with our kids, making our kids feel safe, showing up as the same person day in and day out. None of the big alcohol commercials show you being wasted or passed out on the couch or the hangover the next day. They don't show you any of that.
Nope.
And they don't show you the person who dies because their body was so saturated with alcohol that one day they simply had, their body simply met that threshold. And it's like, and they die.
Yeah.
And it's, and again, then it's like, oh yeah, but they were an alcoholic, they drank that much. And it's the same thing. We all are on that same journey.
It's just a one-way drinking highway. And, every shade of that gray on the gray area drinking spectrum is different. Some are lighter and some are darker. It doesn't matter where you are on that. If it is not serving you and not giving you anything, it is time to take an exit ramp and explore. And get curious. Just get curious about it. Start asking yourself all of the questions of what is it giving and providing in your life? And is it true? Is it really relaxing you? Is it really making you unwind? Is it decreasing your patience or increasing your patience with your kids? I can tell you, when my kids told me after I quit, Mom, you have so much more patience with us now that you quit drinking. It's like, whoa. That is what we want, right? That's what we want.
And you even said, like, there were times where, like, whoa, you handled that well, so much different.
He like 50% of the way.
Like, okay, and as you know, when you have a teenagers, a mom always, there's a certain point where we're like, oh, we're escalating. It's like, and there was a point I would just keep going. And I might not have even been drinking, but because of the effects.
Yep.
And I think people just don't realize how long it takes for alcohol to get out of the effects of alcohol to get out of your body.
Right.
And I think, like even the health wise, like the Huberman report that came out and all of that he's like, well, he's like, I'm not saying not drink, but he's like, you're fooling yourself if you think that there is anything in here that's going to provide a health benefit for you. And
Right.
I know like eight types of cancers. And I've read anywhere from 7 to 11 types of cancers. But now the more they get into the science and how it literally changes your DNA,
Yep.
how could it not be affecting even more? I mean, we know it affects every single organ in our body.
Right. I mean, it is your mind, your body, your spirit. It is literally taking over and hijacking all three. And, why is it that our eyes glow more when we stop drinking the gasoline?
Right.
Why is it that our faces are no more puffy? Why are we drinking a depressant to celebrate? Like it's like we have to start asking ourselves these questions. And I know that when I talk about it sometimes from a fear perspective or the hard facts, a lot of people will turn their heads and they don't want to hear it. But if we don't start talking about it, it's going to continue. And I can tell you, when they do start to question their relationship with alcohol down the road, they will remember what you said. So, for example, I just saw my primary care physician for a physical, and I was telling her, I just celebrated 3 years alcohol free, and I just want to thank you for always telling me how alcohol would impact my sleep and that it would disturb my sleep and I wouldn't get a full night of sleep and that disrupts the REM. And I said, I know I didn't want to hear it at the time because I was drinking. I just didn't want to hear it. But I can tell you that when I actually got curious about it and I explored it and my sleeping got better, I thought about what you said. So thank you for being a physician who tells the truth about alcohol, because there are so many, like we talked about earlier, that don't. And she said, it's because they're drinking too, Meg, and they don't want to be a hypocrite.
Right.
They're in a gray area drinking too.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm done with this. Like, we're not going to talk about it just because it's gray area and it's not rock bottom and it's not end stage drinking.
Right.
We have got to start having these conversations earlier before we do have these external consequences.
Yeah, I agree. I also, I don't want to have people be turned off, but just like you said, we have to start having these conversations because everybody will just say, the biggest thing that I hate, that word I hate the most now, it used to be years ago, I hated the word curiosity. Go figure. Because it was like, I don't want to get curious about anything. I like to live in my own little
Fantasy.
my own little fantasy world, my little glass of wine, and I'm all happy. And now it's moderation, because it was always, everything in moderation. And just like alcohol, you have that one drink, and then all of a sudden you want another one, because it feeds on itself. And I noticed that with sugar, because the other day I had a cookie and I was like, because I was walking by them, and I finally just, I'm going to have one. And then guess what?
Had another.
20 minutes later, I went in another one, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And I'm watching myself literally in it.
Yep. I'm right there with you, because I never ate sweets when I drank. And I talk about this in the book. I mean, the first 30 days, this is disgusting, but I ate a bag of gummy bears a day. And that was like a wake up call. That's how much sugar is in wine. I'm eating a bag of gummy bears a day to make up for what I'm not drinking. That is disgusting. Anyways, thankfully that passed. But I do, like you now, want to have that occasional cookie or whatever. But then there are times, I'll tell you something that happened last night. My husband's out of town for work, and I thought I heard something in the garage, and I couldn't open the garage door, because if somebody was in there, then they could come into the house. So I was shaking like a leaf, turned on the security camera, called my neighbor to see if my garage door was open. Long story short, everything was fine, but I was shaking afterwards, literally. And what did I do? I had a couple cookies. And then I felt like crap later. And I was like, oh my God, this is exactly what I used to do when I drank. I self-soothed.
Yep. Self-soothing. I gotta have that cookie.
And then I felt like crap.
And
I know.
And waking up in the middle of the night, because sugar does, it affects me the same way. It's like all of a sudden I pop up and I'm like, oh my gosh, Well, it's not wine.
A topic I can't identify with. Nothing ever wakes me up at night.
No,
except
you never wake up except me when you like
Lucky
you wake
you.
up.
alcohol, sugar. Didn't. I mean, I may have had bad sleep, but I didn't notice I was asleep.
Yeah. And so that's been the big one of those things too. But okay, well, we are really we could go on forever. I love this. Thank you. And we would love to maybe even have you on again sometime
would
just
love
to
to. I'd
talk
be honored.
about. We can come up with maybe we do
Part
something
two.
where we have you come in. What?
That part 2.
Yeah, we can do a part 2 sometime. But it's just been
love that.
so great. Tell us how everyone can get your book, because I know it's coming really soon. So go ahead and how people can connect with you on the socials. And I've got that information. We will put everything into the show notes. So
Well, thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun, and I would love to come back. I would be honored. So you can find my book anywhere books are sold. Right now, it's available for pre-order. It releases January 17th. So Target, Barnes & Noble, Amazon. The other thing you can do is go to intoxicatinglies.com. You can download the first chapter for free right now and start reading. If you want to know about the 5 most common lies that I talk about in my book, if you go to intoxicatinglies.com/common, you can get a PDF of a printable PDF of the 5 most common lies. I encourage you to get curious, print that out, and start asking yourself, do you believe these lies about alcohol? And is it true? Are they really providing you the 5 things that I go over in the book? And then I'm on Instagram and that's really where I live, which is Intoxicating Lies Book. And I am on Facebook as well at Intoxicating Lies, One Woman's Journey to Freedom from Gray Area Drinking. So that's how you can find me. Please sign up for my newsletter. I have some exciting new things coming down the pike, and maybe in part 2, I can share those with you. So please go to my website and sign up for my newsletter so you can be the first to know about them.
oh, that sounds awesome. Thank you so much for being with us today. And
Well, one last question. Drink your favorite
that's right.
non-alcoholic drink of the week. Can't forget.
So I discovered a drink. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It is sold in a lot of liquor stores now. It's called Kalo, Kalo, and it's a CBD seltzer. And the reason why I like it is you don't get a buzz, but if you are familiar with CBD, which is non-addictive, it just kind of chills you out a little bit. My favorite flavor is the pomegranate peach, and I have one at night instead of my glass of wine. It just kind of chills me out a little bit, and I think it's delicious. It's only 15 calories, and I think only 1 gram of sugar.
There
Isn't
you
that
go.
crazy? No, now we have the
Different than
benefit.
my red wine.
Oh my
Right.
gosh. And that's always one of those things. Everybody's like, oh, how much sugar in wine? And I'm like,
Just buy the sugar-free wine. That solve all your problems.
yeah, that
Yeah.
healthy organic wine.
Well, thanks again, Meg, for being with us. We really appreciate your time, and I look forward to reading the book. Amy's mostly through it, so thank you again.
Thank you both for having me. It was an honor.
Well, thank you, Meg. Very excited about the book coming out.
I know it.
Will you read it to me? You already have it. So
I have
you know.
it. And I just want to do an update. I have finally
Finished it since
I
then?
did finish it. It's so good. We are going to post in the show notes all the places that you can find Meg. And Meg has also told me that she is going to also do a giveaway with us with the book. And so hopefully we'll be doing that soon.
Book has to be out for us to do that. So
And I just want to thank her because, she has a very, we all have this common thread, but there are differences. And she is a force to be reckoned with.
She is.
And I would highly encourage you to follow her on Instagram because I'm loving what she's putting out.
Right at McDonald's, you're loving
She's a wonderful person.
Yeah, she
and
is.
thank you so much. And actually, she's going to come on and do a part 2 with us in January. So probably right around, I think the book launches around January 17th keeps coming
Sounds
to
about
mind.
right.
So
Sounds about right.
we're really excited for her. And this, I just can't wait to see what she's going to do.
Yes, maybe you'll write a book someday.
You know what?
I wouldn't even have a cooler story.
I don't either.
Dear past self, I don't know. Okay, anyway, kids. Well, thank you for joining us here on the Alcohol-Free Marriage Podcast. I am Matt, along with the always lovely Coach Amy, and we are out.